Hello and welcome. This is today's painting. Today I will be working with a limited color palette and paints that I have made myself. These are the first 6 colors that I have ever made for my brand, and for today's painting we are using Prussian blue, ultramarine blue, cadmium red and golden ochre. These will be available on my Etsy shop in the link below if you're interested. I'm using these Escoda brushes. They are the travel edition, but I really love these brushes. They can protect their bristles, and they've got a hole in the back for the bristles to dry if you collapse them while they're still moist. I have started by taping down my paper. Now I'm going over with some clean water just to get that sheen, a perfect start for a wet on wet background. So you just want that sheen that you can see in the bottom left corner. So I'm just mixing up my Prussian blue and I'm going in with horizontal strikes, just brushing it on, and this is just to get the colors down first, and then I'll go over after to make the colors deeper, because watercolor dries a lot lighter than when you put it on wet. So I just go off with Prussian blue at the top, ultramarine blue in the middle for the ocean, and then some golden ochre just in the bottom. Now you can probably do this with the same color sky, but I feel like it does give a different feel to the painting when I do it like this. So I'm just going over to darken the horizon with some ultramarine blue. And you don't want too much ultramarine blue at the bottom, because if that mixes up with the yellow ochre, well, the golden ochre, it makes this muddy green color that I don't want in my sea. But yeah, I also went over and darkened the sky, and now I'm just cleaning up that horizon just to make sure that the ultramarine doesn't bleed up into the sky too much. And I just lift up some clouds with a clean, dry, like a kitchen towel. Mine is microfiber. It doesn't matter, you can do it with kitchen roll, anything that you have on hand. You can do it with a damp yet dry brush as well. Now I'm just going over to a mix between cadmium red and Prussian blue. It makes a lovely shade color, and just dropping it in underneath those white clouds that I lifted up with the towel. So at this point the painting has dried, and I'm just going over to map out the horizon line and trying to get it as straight as possible. This is better done with masking tape, which I didn't think of until I had pulled off that ruler, but it worked, and now I'm just cleaning up those little lines that the ruler sort of made by accident, but it works. So at this point I am using that same shade color that I used for the clouds, and just very much darker, a lot darker. And it's not the darkest it can be, because this is going to be the background mountains, and I want another sort of line of mountains in front of it. So I'm going to make this a little bit lighter than the absolute darkest it can be, so that we can get some of that 3D effect of those mountains. And now starts the fun but somewhat tedious process of creating the waves. Now, the waves are going to be darker the closer to the mountains they go, and they're going to be lighter the further away from the mountains. So because the mountains will basically put shadow onto the water. So I'm just going over with ultramarine blue, and I'm making these sort of random-ish lens shapes where, or you can also sort of see them as diamond shapes, but they shouldn't be too regular. They should be fairly random, and the closer that they get to the shoreline, the bigger they will be, and for the effect that I want with this painting, they will also be further apart and thinner. And I just go in here with the other side and I do exactly the same. So because of that mountain again, it's going to be darker in that right hand side up closer to the mountain. It's going to become lighter the further away from the mountain you get. I can just continue with doing this, and it sort of goes through an ugly stage. At least that's what I feel. And at some point when you start with the next layer, it will look a lot better, and then you start the final layer and then it all comes together. So just have some patience with this, not only with how it's turning out, but also it takes a while. So I'm just going in and I'm darkening the values and making my best efforts at getting them somewhat the same on each side. And I'm going in with some of that color that from the mountains at this point, which is kind of like a second layer because it's somewhat dried, but it still melts into the blue that is already there. So it's just going in with that purpley gray color and making sure that those shadows from the mountains are there, but that they also stop at some point and going very light. And I am mostly going over the lines that I have already sort of made in the downward downward dipping angle. And I'm also going in with some Prussian blue now just to shade in those waves that are closer to us, to make that depth a little bit more clear. And I'm just going over and shading in all of these downward bends with some Prussian blue. I'm just going through and darkening up some of the Prussian blue waves. I just find that this creates a very nice play of colors in the painting. So now I'm preparing for the second row of mountains. The reason why I choose to have mountains in a lot of my paintings that go like this is because I want that contrast. A light sky, a dark mountain, dark in the water, dark shades in the water, and light reflections in the water, which is what I'm doing now. I've got some white gouache on my mixing area on my palette, and that is great for times like these when I haven't really planned out where all of my waves are going, so I couldn't really, well, I could have planned so that I could put down some masking fluid, but I found that this just makes more sense for me and the fluidity of the painting, and just go over with some gouache to make some highlights. You can also do this with a white gel pen. It will create more or less the same results. And I just go over a couple of times to get those really white areas. And that is basically today's painting finished. I really hope you enjoyed the process, and if you did choose to paint along, I would love to see your your painting. So if you can tag me on Instagram or post it on my Facebook page, that would be amazing. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in a later or even an earlier video. Thanks so much for watching. See you later. Bye.